So, hello everyone. Today I want to introduce you to Claire Doyle. Claire took to writing when her musical passions came to an end. She calls it her part-time economics specialist time, which I think is amazing. So she describes her writing in that way too. She has written 3 novels, 2 set in Hungary where she currently lives, and the other starts in Sussex and ends up in Santa Monica, as you do. Laura McLove is her alter ego, over 40, but in many ways she's like a teenager inside. And Claire tells me she was very influenced by authors like John Fante, who also had an alter ego. And that's where it all started for her, with that. So, hello Claire, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
It's lovely to have you here today.
It's lovely to be on.
Oh, thank you so much for coming.
Budapest.
Yes, all the way.
Hello, London.
It's wonderful to have you. Yes, I'm going to talk today about love, because you write romance, don't you?
Yes.
So my question is, what are your beliefs and thoughts around love, and why do you write about love in your romance novels?
Okay, so as I write from my alter ego and what I studied in the books that I loved, they're generally male writers, but they're always after a woman, you know.
Right.
So, and this is a driver in almost every character in fiction. Mm-hmm. It seemed to me quite obvious, you know. It's a driver in my life, or has been.
Right.
It does propel one's future forward at times, or sets you off in strange directions.
True.
Well, I think it's a part of inside every human being, but also every character. I mean, it's a way that people can relate to, and also to bring out their flaws, how they mess up all the time. I have to say, another influence on me is Sex and the City with Carrie Bradshaw. She is my hero. I love
Yes, she was an amazing character, wasn't she?
Yes, I love Sex and the City. That was a massive influence on me. You see, in terms of place, because she talked a lot about, I'm having a relationship with the city, if you remember, in some scenes. And so that's why the second novel is called The Budapest Artists Club.
Oh, how wonderful.
And so my alter ego, because I returned to Budapest in order to write this novel, so it's really about, this is a slightly different aspect to love, it's about a love of a place.
Yes.
And see, other people might experience that as a love of home. Mm-hmm. I also have the love of home. But I do have the love of Budapest, which is phenomenal for me.
Yes, it's a beautiful city, isn't it?
Absolutely beautiful. And I love the music. And the thing is, with John Fante, who's my favourite writer, who's long dead now, I have to tell you, very modern writer. But what he does with his character is he is humour and pain in the same sentence. It's something like that. So he's slightly broken, but it's not sentimental. It's just it's that fragility of a character who is hurting but is funny at the same time. I'm actually after that quality. You would have to read his Ask the Dust to understand the beauty he brings to this young man who's a character. And so it's the love and the pain at the same time in the same sentence that I'm after.
That's wonderful.
That's me on a good day, all right? Some days I don't get any of that.
But, I mean, isn't that often what love is like? Especially in the beginning of a relationship. There's sort of joy and pain in equal amounts almost.
Absolutely. And the more you love, the more the pain.
Right. Yes.
And I can experience that in terms of the love of the music that I like.
Yes.
It sort of breaks me open to some extent because it reaches into very deep parts of my emotional makeup.
Right.
You understand? Well, as music does, because it's so intangible.
Yes, and it sort of bypasses everything and touches your soul.
Absolutely. So I think when you feel real love, you are quite... I mean, there are people who are, what would you call them, psychopaths, but they can't feel that.
Yes, that's a shame.
And I often viewed it as a weakness in myself.
Right.
And the modern world would say that too, but actually I view it as, in fact, I tried to develop it at one point, to quite a large degree, to develop my sensitivity more.
Right.
So I could get that part of myself.
But I think all artists need that type of sensitivity. Otherwise, You cannot communicate to an audience the things that deeply touch all of us, right? If there's no sensitivity behind it. And isn't that the dilemma of so many artists? That they live in a place where they are very sensitive and vulnerable. And as you said, society doesn't always think that's a good thing. And
well,
yet
to function in the economy, it's pretty much a disaster.
Right, but as an artist, you need that, don't you?
Need it, but you need it as a human being.
Yes, you do as well.
And do you know what? I've come to the conclusion. I read Graham Greene. I read a novel here in Budapest, written by a journalist, and there's a few others. And they're journalists first. George Orwell would be another.
Right.
I read them, and they have no emotion in them.
Yes.
I can't finish them. I'm like, oh, not another journalist who cannot. There's a whole range of his emotions he cannot access. Yes. I hate it because some men can.
Right.
I think they tend to be screenwriters or novelists first. Screenwriters can, because they're writing, they've got to appeal to the human emotions so that we watch the movie, you know. Yeah, that's my theory.
But I want to come back slightly.
But this is a love thing. So it's not romance in the boy meets girl romantic sense, but that's just one sense. So I definitely am a romantic in the broader sense of the word. Right.
But I want to come back just briefly to what you said before. You said love of place.
Yes.
Do you feel that also encompasses something like safety and comfort and those feelings that actually we also experience as very young children hopefully with our mother or our parents?
Oh my God, you're really touching on something there. I mean, it all goes back to the mother relationship, in my view. But comfort, safety. I came to Budapest and I was quite uncomfortable, let me tell you, but I've still persisted here. Right. I'm much more comfortable now. So something made me go through that and still hang on. But
how long have you been there?
Nearly 4 years now.
Okay. What made you go there to begin with?
I came out for a little trip in 2016, just after Bataclan disaster. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm here and not in Paris.
Yes.
You know, I booked it. And so I had a great time. And then I went back to England as I was living, and I got homesick within 3 days.
Oh.
No, homesickness. See, I never truly am homesick for Scotland.
Right.
I think about Scotland every day, and I dream dreams. I dream Scottish dreams, let me tell you. And I profoundly, on the day of my mother's funeral, I profoundly understood what motherland means, what mother tongue means. I profoundly understood. I can't even put it into words.
Right.
On a spiritual level, I got it. Yeah, I can't necessarily access that wisdom now. I got it. So anyway, I had homesickness for Budapest. So within 6 months, I returned. I'd already written the first draft.
Right.
And the second draft in a little Airbnb in District 13, and until I got a proper flat. So I was feeling a wee bit insecure then. So that helps with the writing.
It can, yes.
I was doing here. And then Brexit happened. That made me stay, you see.
Right, okay.
Well, if I want to live here, then I've got to do it now, haven't I?
Yes. So do you feel that it is your spiritual home?
Good question. I don't know. I think Scotland is ultimately my resting place, if you like. Now, that's a profound thing to say, but my inspiration is absolutely here. I'm gobsmacked all the time. And until a few weeks ago, my favourite club, I could go to every Friday and see this phenomenal music, fantastic dancing, a tiny little club full of a lot of the dancers who do the stage shows. They'll turn up later.
Right.
And they'll go and chill out there. I mean, it's fantastic. It's just totally, people aren't wearing normal clothing, do you know what I mean? And totally wild with things that can happen in there. Amazing. So,
well, we have one in London like that. It's called the Phoenix Artists Club. And all the guys from the West End go and sing there after shows.
So that's where, loads of inspiration comes out of that. Even just looking at, oh God, watching musicians perform is just, I find, because it's a tiny little stage, this club, and musicians go up and down and share instruments and stuff like this. And people turn up and get their instruments out. And I remember one bloke, he must be 20-something, and I said to him, "I love your viola." He said, "Oh, I do too." I just said, "How old is it?" He said, 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I said, 3 weeks? I said, "I love it. It's got a fantastic sound." He said, I know. And see, this is what, in that little club, it's full of, I mean, who do you meet in London who's got a 3-week-old viola? Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody. But this club, it's like a little network of folkies, and they're in touch with academics, the musicians, the dancers, the institutes a bit, and the instrument makers.
It sounds
and the gypsies
wonderful.
in Transylvania as well. The gypsies come across from Transylvania as well. Anyway, I'm not telling you the name of it. It may never open again. It's a horror if that happens after this lockdown.
Yes. But how wonderful. So as you say, that is your inspiration. And does that place and those people feature in your novels?
The Budapest Artists Club, is based on a fiction. Actually, the Budapest Artists Club does exist, but nothing like what I have. It's an old place,
right,
full of the great and the good from centuries past.
Right.
And it's like a Cuban bar now, but it's a beautiful place. Anyway, I created a fictional place, and it's an amalgam of some of the great places I went to like 25 years ago, and now it's just fictional.
It sounds wonderful. It sounds absolutely wonderful. So do you see lots of romance there? Is there sort of love stories that happen there too?
I mean, I had my own romance with somebody, but... indeed. So, who was a dancer? Well, he still is, actually. And so he forms the character that I'm in pursuit of. That's a kind of central theme.
Right.
That dance club is not boy meets girl club, but I mean, these people are there to dance.
Yes, of course.
That is obviously romance happens because men and women dance with each other, but there's a lot of quite young people too.
Right.
It's not like a discotheque or anything. When the sole, probably the sole thing is to find someone by the end of the night.
Right. Yes.
These people are serious. You don't go to that club unless you're really serious about wanting to dance.
Of course, yeah. Well, I mean, all these artists' clubs are like that, aren't they?
I know. That's my biggest fascination in life is the life of artists.
Yeah, they live a different life.
Very interesting.
Yeah, sort of parallel to other people sometimes.
It is parallel.
You said something about your alter ego being a little bit older, but that she feels like a teenager inside still.
Yes.
So can you explain a little bit more about that?
Well, John Fante's alter ego, Arturo Bandini, is just like 21 years old.
Right.
So he's obviously extremely young and naive. So I rather like this quality. So I thought, well, I'll just nick it for myself.
Right.
So in a sense, it's kind of a bit ridiculous, but probably I am a bit like that. I'm not someone who's become a mother. I've never had a mortgage. I mean, I've definitely been settled at points, but the whole bunch of stuff has just passed me by, to be honest with you.
But I think no matter how old we are, even people in their 70s, when they fall in love again, we all become 17 again, don't we?
Yes, there is. Yes. But I remember going to visit the boyfriend at the time, although he was 50. This is back in Britain. And we went to visit his friends who had a family, what have you. And they were talking about their teenage son doing a gig at I don't know if it was a New Cross Inn, like next to New Cross Station, and how they'd helped them out and blah, blah, blah. And I thought to myself, I've got more in common with a teenage son doing the gig in the bar at New Cross than I have with the big sofa in the nice house. Yes. Because I've never had the big sofa in the nice house. I mean, I've had nice places to live. I'm not saying I haven't. And I've had mundane existence at various times.
Right.
But I just never lived that. So that's, you can call that immaturity. Or you call it, well, that's my realities.
People have different lifestyles. And I think that's
I'm telling you, it's frowned on. If you have never conformed to that lifestyle, it is frowned on big time. And so this alter ego was a way for me venting steam, because I can't say it out loud. Well, I never chose it. I didn't want it.
Right.
Okay, I'm not allowed to say that in polite society, because you'll get shunned. There's a whole bunch of stuff I can't say out loud. Anyway, I can put it into my character and make her... I mean, she's not antagonistic. She's just free-floating. gone off on her own spiritual tangent. She's very much a spiritual person. And that spiritual aspect relates to love too.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so that's because as you're talking about love, I very much view love as God, really, I suppose, in the broadest, is the thing that keeps us alive. I remember Greg Braden, who's quite a mystic explorer and writer, and he asked somebody in Tibet, in a cave somewhere, somewhere like this, and he asked all these profound questions, and the answer was, it's like, what keeps the stars together? And the answer was, it's love.
Right. And do you believe that too?
I haven't been up the spiritual scale that far. I can get a grip. I certainly remembered that quote, thinking, wonder if I'll ever be able to really understand it. But I definitely view the spiritual realm as the real realm, and not this regular world. If you see what I mean?
I do see what you mean.
That's my angle on the world.
Right. And so do your books reflect that, I would imagine?
They do, but not in an overt way. Yeah. Because something drives a character forward, so that on a superficial level, it's like, oh, I'm going to pursue this man, or I want to live in this place, or I'm going on this journey.
Yes.
But in reality, or if you believe in the higher self, or, you're yada, 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 then you have to fulfill yourself.
Right.
You have to pursue this inner path. You have no choice in that sense. And finally, I came to writing after avoiding it, because I had no choice not to do it.
Because if there is something that is driving your soul and you suppress it, it will come up and bite you when you least expect it.
That's
and
right.
It is painful.
It is difficult. And here's the other thing I remember. I don't know, my mum said it, or certainly the school teacher would say it, is that it was your responsibility to bring what you had inside out to the world.
Well, it's like, Khalil Gibran, when he wrote The Prophet, he said something similar, didn't he? He said something about love is forever desiring to fulfill itself.
That's right.
And we are love.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. This expansion is going on.
Right.
And when you turn away from it, because it's too difficult, you see, this is a spiritual challenge, and this is what causes depression, but when you try and inch towards it, you find a lot of that pressure is relieved. At the point when I actually started to write it was a second draft. The words were literally coming out at the end of my fingers.
That's wonderful when that happens.
That was on the second draft. The first draft was hell. The second one, I created a deadline for myself by going on a writer's retreat, which is quite expensive. And I thought, oh, geez, I've not written anything, I'm going to have to. And I panicked myself. And all this psychic energy just came out of my fingers every morning.
That's amazing.
That is an amazing experience. But you would call that a spiritual experience as well.
Yes.
It's like all the stuff that I thought was me being lazy, I now call pre-writing.
You keep referring back to music, but it's like when you are a singer and you are learning new music, your body gestates the music. And I think that happens with writers too. We gestate the idea before we write it,
right.
But it is interesting to me why romance writers write about love. I mean, why do you think there is such a thing as romance and why we write about it?
Other cultures don't necessarily have romantic love, do they? I'm not an expert, but for some reason it's our way to procreate. That's the first thing. But it seems to be become a real... It just occupies everything in the Western canon, if you like, doesn't it? I mean, there was a romantic movement, after all, which came after... which was a post-industrial, post-enlightenment movement that people wanted to... They didn't want all this industry, and so I think it's a counter to how difficult, the difficulty of day-to-day living, I suppose. And why would you write about it? Well, I mean, I've actually had a big love. Well, I've had love at different levels, but I certainly had a profound love of my life experience who I was involved with for for me, a considerable length of time.
Right.
And only the love of my mother would come close.
Right.
And so it was the only way I could relate the love I had for this man. Even at the time I knew, I only loved my mother more. So it was very, very close. And I remember arguing with somebody later. He said, I didn't know what love was because I didn't have children. I said, you're wrong.
Right, yes, of
And he
course.
said, it's not the same. But do you know how strongly I must have felt it to say at the time? I'm not sure I'd say it now. And I said, no, I do know. Well, one, I've got my own mother, and two, I had this profound experience over many years with
Yes.
this man. And, I knew at the time it was good fun, and it was life-changing. And it
Right.
made me very happy, and I think it made him happy for the years that it lasted.
Right.
Here's the interesting thing. I'll give you an interesting story about that relationship.
Okay.
I didn't see this person for a considerable length of time, and then I ran into him, of all places, and this is a man from Spain. I ran into him at Gatwick Airport. He didn't live in Britain. And I saw him, and I thought, oh my God. I walked over to him and said, hi, and he looked at me. The first thing he said was, Claire, it's been 10 years. He knew at the top of his head how long it had been, because usually you don't remember, you forget in the midst of time, don't you, a lot of these
Yes, you do.
or even serious relationships that you've had.
Yeah.
He knew. I didn't see anything. I'm like, wow, not just me then.
How lovely.
Well, it was a little bit of a sort of reaffirmation that it was significant for him too.
Yeah.
So there's the reason. I think the real love experience is absolutely profound.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are a lot of imitations.
And do you think that is why readers read so much romance? Because we keep hearing that romance readers are ferocious, that they read.
That's right, it's true.
And do you think it is because they try to recreate this, exactly what you just talked about, this feeling, this profound feeling?
It can be a wee bit addictive, I think.
Right.
But I don't think that's why romance readers are voracious. I think they just enjoy the story, and that's just their favourite. You'd never describe thriller readers as that. Although romance is the biggest genre, isn't it?
Sometimes crime is first, and then romance is second, and then it shifts a little bit. Yes.
Oh, it's hope, isn't it? It's like, we'll be right in the end. That's what stories are for, aren't they? They're profound. Yeah, because it's the truth within the lie.
Mm-hmm.
We're after that meaning. For a lot of us, it seems like it's the only thing that's left. I mean, I tend to think of the movies. You say, so romantic comedy is my favourite genre. I just love romantic comedy.
Why?
Because I like to laugh. I like to have a good laugh. And I think it's funny, and I think it can be deep sometimes. And other times it's just really fluffy. And I think it's fantastically entertaining, and you're going to get a good ending.
Right.
I want a happy ending. I'm sorry. That's what I want. I love rom-coms. I really do. I was very heartened once when Jonathan Ross said he loved rom-coms. That's what he was interviewing. He said I thought it's great when a guy says he loves rom-coms,
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, because I love them too, especially when they're set in New York. And the old Hollywood films that are like that, I love all that.
Like you just said, it makes you happy. You want a happy ending. You want to feel something joyful. And I think romance brings that to people, doesn't it?
Yes, I would say.
So,
but here's the other thing. Scarlett O'Hara, that's romance, Gone with the Wind.
Right.
And that's fantastic.
Yes.
Isn't it? I mean, what a great movie that is. And how about Anna Karenina?
Right.
She threw herself, I mean, that's tragic romance, she threw herself under a trainer.
Yes.
I love it. What about Madame Bovary?
Right. All these amazing stories.
Full of it, and oh my God. But all these characters, I mean, this is literature, but they all had this romance going through it. If I read my favourite writer, say John Fante, or even Charles Bukowski, who's viewed as some horrible misogynist, they've constantly got women on their minds. And it's an integral part of the characters.
Right.
I mean, happy endings, John Fante doesn't have happy endings, but he's in pursuit of a woman for sure. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just amazed more people don't write like John Fante, because it's great to have a guy who's in pursuit of romance,
Yes, because there are many men who now do write romance, which is...
I've never read any of them.
Yes, very good. Well, some of them write under pen names, female pen names, but there are quite a lot who write as themselves, and they write romance. And it is very interesting to read their books, because it is from a different...
Yes.
It's got a different
Complex.
feel.
There's something I was going to say, that the reason I wrote the third novel, Hollywood Balaton, which is set down at Lake Balaton.
Right.
And it's about a woman who, she meets a guy in Paris, but she follows him down to the lake, and she's waiting, in Hungary. And, life is in the balance while she waits for him. He's looking after his mother in Budapest. Right. But I wrote that because I read Michel Houellebecq's Submission.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good novel, and I like Michel Houellebecq. My favourite male writers are all misogynists. I don't know why that is. I would prefer it if they weren't, but there's something about them that's dark and clever, and I like it. I got to the end of that Michel Houellebecq, and I thought, F you, Michel Houellebecq. I'm going to write my own, and I'm going to have a better ending. Not only that, I'm going to make it Michel Houellebecq meets Carrie Bradshaw. Houellebecq. The ending is so grim, and I thought to myself, I read quite a few reviews of that book, because it's a big deal. Houellebecq is like the biggest writing intellectual in France.
Of course.
And the insight that I got at the end, I never read any review or anyone say anything, not even feminist reviewers actually pick out what happened in the end. Right. I was horrified. I was like, ooh, what I detected in it. Nobody else has said. I don't particularly, because it's all a bit heavy duty, so I don't particularly want to say what my awareness was. And I just thought, oh, F you, Houellebecq. you bloody intellectual, you man, you.
Yeah, you'll do it better.
Let's have a happy ending. I'm going to do it. So that's what I did. I wrote in response to that.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's great.
Oh, God, I don't come anywhere near his literary abilities. But I definitely, do you know what I do like? I've noticed, and this is from reading, as I've said, a lot of my favourite writers are men. They were from the West Coast in America. They worked in Hollywood, a little bit misogynistic, yada, yada. And I just got to that point and I thought, it was that FU point, which is like, I'm gonna take a little dart from where I'm sitting in my pathetic little place in my room, and I'm gonna puncture you, you great artists, you, because I want to be one of you, and I need to aim high and kind of almost not like bring you down. I mean, I need the inspiration, but it was like because there's a level of arrogance that goes with some of these male writers, and I thought, right, I'm pitching myself right at you, and I got angry. That's what made me write. I got angry.
Sometimes that's the best way.
It is. Anger is a great fuel. Was it the Sex Pistols said anger is an energy?
Yes, it is.
Johnny Rotten, John Lydon.
He did say that.
That was the biggest fuel ever, and that's when the depression turns and you're flying if you really get angry.
Yes, because it makes you take action. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Also, any strong emotion, I suppose, but
yeah,
because depression is anger turned inwards. The creativity is getting yourself out there, isn't it? So
of course, yeah. And I mean, writing is a very cathartic experience anyway.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah.
Still needs discipline, so it's not all about catharsis, unfortunately.
True. Yes, that's true. But in the end, we create art anyway. We create art, whatever form it takes. So that's what's important, I think.
Yes.
So on that note, we've come to the end of our interview. So I want to say thank you very, very much, Claire, for joining us today and for sharing so much of your life with us. That's really interesting, and I'm sure the listeners would enjoy listening to all your experiences and your wealth of information that you shared with us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.